It is quite possible that Terence Bud Crawford is done fighting. Well, at least according to promoter Eddie Hearn. In a brand new interview with Fight Hub that was just released for the Pacheco fight event, Eddie Hearn said some very interesting things. In this interview, he says that keep in mind the reason why it's important, because I know some people are going to be like, oh, but Eddie Hearn, he's not Crawford's promoter, which is true. However, he worked with Crawford on his last fight, and they're pretty much connected with the same people in terms of Riyadh Season and Turkey Al-Sheikh. So if anyone would be in the know, I would say somebody who's aligned with the same people, works with Turkey just like you work with Turkey, keeps in contact, I'm sure, things like that. So what he said was very interesting. Basically, he said he doesn't think that Terence Crawford will return if he cannot get Canelo payday. You want payday? I know that. And in this interview, he basically said Terence Crawford has turned down Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Boots Ennis. He goes on to say that Jaron Boots Ennis will beat Terence Crawford. And I'm just paraphrasing because you guys can definitely check out the interview yourself. But to paraphrase, he says that Terence Crawford, he doesn't think he's coming back. And he believes that Jaron Boots Ennis 100% would beat Terence Crawford. He says Crawford knows how dangerous the fight is. He knows how dangerous Jaron Boots Ennis is. And he knows it won't pay the money that the risk warrants just yet. Maybe in 6-12 months, that's a mega fight that he needs. Because the host was basically saying, you don't think for a Boots fight, Terence Crawford would be able to get up for that, get up because Boots is the up-and-comer. And that's how Eddie Hearn responded. Eddie Hearn, he goes on to say that because he was asked if Boots is a harder fight than Canelo, and he says, no, but if you lose to Canelo, you would be losing to a 168-pound all-time great. If you lose to Boots Ennis, sometimes these fighters, they feel they're giving you an opportunity. And he says if Boots wins and Boots beats Terence Crawford 100%, he says that Boots is too good, too young, too fresh for Crawford. And the host kind of countered with something to the effect of, the counter argument to that would be people saying that Boots is not ready. Who is he fought? Who is he beat? He's never really faced anyone the caliber of a Terence Crawford. To which Eddie Hearn said that basically look at the Madrimov fight, right? He said Madrimov, he had 9 fights. It doesn't matter that he had a bunch of amateur fights as a pro. He said he had 9. It was really 11 fights, but, close enough. And he said, I'm sure Boots had over 100 amateur fights as well. And he's 34 fights or so deep as a pro. He said he's ready, but Crawford won't fight him, and I don't blame him. Earlier in the interview, he did say that he doesn't believe that Crawford is taking the Virgil Ortiz fight. Now, again, Eddie Hearn does not speak on behalf of Terence Crawford. We have to wait and see. However, this is not surprising one bit, because Terence Crawford, if you listen to what he's saying and you listen to other information, it kind of aligns with what Eddie Hearns is saying. For example, Turkey of Riyadh Season, he did a Spaces recently, and he stated out his own mouth that we will send Crawford an offer to face a guy like Virgil Ortiz. He says, I like the fight. Turkey also said in that Spaces that a fight with Boots is a good fight, but basically it's not a top priority that they're looking for. But he said he will send an offer for Virgil Ortiz. I made a video about it. The video is on the channel, so you guys can check that out. Listen, I'm the best in the business, and it's really not close. To stay up to date in boxing, it's on you, yes, you at home, to hit the subscribe button. So in this space, Turkey basically said that I'm willing to send a reasonable offer because he likes the Virgil Ortiz Crawford fight, but he doesn't believe that Terence Crawford will accept it. These were Turkey's own words. Now we have Eddie Hearn, who's kind of on the same side with his own platform, and he's saying the same thing. So it is not looking good. Now, Eddie Hearn kind of took it a step further and basically suggested that Crawford's made a lot of money. You know, he's made a pretty penny, and that he believes that Terence Crawford is done fighting. And the only thing that would change that is if he gets a massive fight with Canelo Alvarez. So I don't know. We'll have to see. You know, I don't know if Terence Crawford is trying to create, you know, like a demand or something. Like, hey, I'm good. I could retire. I made enough money. I could retire off of this unless you guys treat me right. But here's the thing, and I've always said this. Terence Crawford is an amazing fighter, but not necessarily an amazing businessman. And it's funny because people get so mad, the Bud Buddies particularly, when I've said that, but I mean it. It's what it is. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. It doesn't make him the best owner of a team. You see how that works? You could be great in one capacity. Doesn't really mean that in a completely different space that you're on the up and up. Is what it is. Like I said, Michael Jordan's a great example. You can't say he's the best owner of a team and there's no better owners, no, you know, Mark Cubans or anything that are better than Michael Jordan. But Michael Jordan's an expert in basketball. He's a GOAT, and he has that under his belt. It's what it is. It's just like, it's no different than you could be a great rapper. That doesn't mean you'll be a great actor. There's a lot of rappers who have been cast in movies and they're not really believable. You know, it don't matter if you come from the hood, come from the streets. Some people don't have acting chops. It's kind of what it is. So I'm just giving you guys some analogies. Terence Crawford, the businessman, I don't know. It's kind of shaky. And what is being said is pretty alarming because here's the thing. Terence Crawford spent so much of his career with Top Rank. I'm talking about probably 10 plus years with Top Rank. In the end, it didn't work out. And he at one point said he was going to even sue Bob Arum for racial bias, right? The fights that he got were not the fights that would suit his career and take him to new heights. I think we can all agree there, right? The best fight that Top Rank had when they had Crawford that could have been made, that wasn't, was Manny Pacquiao. I pushed for that. I wanted to see it. I think Crawford probably would have beat Manny Pacquiao, but coulda, shoulda, woulda. Top Rank never pulled the trigger. Fight never happened. So under Top Rank, he didn't really get the fights, especially at the time. You fought Kell Brook. People said he was washed. You fought Sean Porter. He was on a 400-plus day layoff. That was his last career fight. So he knew he was kind of checking out. He had a podcast and he was doing all these commentary gigs. You fought Amir Khan after Canelo knocked him stiff, and Amir Khan was asleep with his eyes open. You know what I mean? It's just the timing wasn't great. You finally get to a free agency after the David Avocado, but I'm not going to even bring up all the, failed negotiation stuff. Let's fast forward to the Errol Spence fight. Get to the Errol Spence fight. You dominate, you drop him, and it's like, all right, this could be almost like the rebirth, if you will. You have a great performance. Some people, including myself, thought you were going to lose to the Errol Spence, and then you dominate. Then he just sits back and disappears for a year. Then he reemerges and fights an unknown guy in America who hasn't particularly looked amazing in recent time, like the Michelle Sorro draw, things like that. And he only has 11 fights. I told you guys that wasn't going to really bolster and help Crawford. It wasn't really going to do more. It wasn't a great follow-up to the Errol Spence fight. And now you got Eddie Hearn in Turkey who are saying that Crawford don't want to fight Virgil Ortiz and he's not going to fight Boots because it's kind of beneath him. And I just think this is such a weird move and it's very questionable from Terence Crawford. You spend all this time with Top Rank. You weren't really getting the fights. Now you have better fights than you ever were getting with Top Rank. And I understand he's a little bit older, but he's never been stopped. He's never been dropped or anything, about to be 37. Now you have fights that people are starting to want to see. And if you can't get your way and get a Canelo fight, which doesn't look likely considering what Canelo said in the past, considering that Turkey and Canelo Alvarez are having a in contest, right? And don't seem to be on a page where they would work together, right? So it's just not looking likely. So what is Crawford going to do? You know, if he really chooses to hang him up right here, I think it's kind of a waste. I think the Virgil Ortiz fight is a good fight. It's almost like Crawford doesn't want like the challenge. He doesn't want a challenge unless it's the ultimate challenge that also comes with a insane bag, which is Canelo Alvarez. All the fights at 154, top level guys, I think could be very challenging. Eddie Hearn just said in this interview he don't think that Crawford will do a Madrimov rematch. He said he don't think the Virgil Ortiz has basically been turned down, and same thing with Boots, because he said he don't like the risk and it's not worth it to him. So it's like, what do you want to do? So you don't want to fight nobody. You don't want to fight Boachuk, Virgil, Boots, Madrimov 2, Jermell Charlo. They ordered Sebastian Fundora. You know, so there's some like pretty dangerous fights. Janabek's at 160. You just only want Canelo Alvarez, and if you can't have that, then you're gonna walk. I just feel like it's kind of a weird moment because people wanted Crawford to get better fights. We all supported Crawford and wanted to see him fight the best and stuff. And, you know, barring maybe like Gamboa or like Post-style, just a lot of the other fights outside of those weren't really what people demanded. Now you have this pivotal moment in your career where you beat Errol Spence and things kind of going your way. And now you have options as a free agent. And it sounds like you want to take your ball and go home almost. And I'm just curious what that's about. So to me, it just seems like Crawford wants to have his, almost like he just wants to have his legacy untouched. Like he wants to retire like a Floyd Mayweather or Andre Ward. But here's the kicker. Andre Ward, when he retired, yes, he retired undefeated, but he didn't retire undefeated without a major challenge that he had to topple, aka Sergey Kovalev, a new weight class, and then he retired. First fight, people said he lost. I didn't agree with that. I thought Ward won, but it was a tough fight. We know that. He got dropped, got hurt, whatever. So he landed the Kovalev. He ensured that he gave the fight fans the Kovalev rematch, and then he knocked Kovalev out, putting to rest all the conversations about the first fight. That's what happens. That's why you take a rematch. And then the rematch was the answer. Then he left on the high note. Floyd beat Pacquiao and then fought Berto, and in his career, so he fought Maidana, Canelo, you know, and then, or actually, I think he actually fought Robert Guerrero, Canelo, Maidana, Pacquiao, Berto. So see how Floyd went out? Floyd Mayweather like went out fighting and challenging himself. The same year he retired in 2015 was the same year he beat Pacquiao, which is the main fight people said they wanted to see. Bud, it seems like the going is starting to get tough at 54, new division, new challenges. Bud looked more human at 154. And if what Eddie Hearn is saying is true, you just want to peace out right when it's starting to get interesting. You know what I mean? That's kind of weird. When Bud was at 35 and 40, there really wasn't many guys to fight. Like 35, he beat Ray Beltran or whatever. Like there wasn't really many guys after that to stay in those divisions. So he had to kind of keep moving up, right? 54 got some work. They got some monsters and got some very good fights. Now, if he's not realistic with his purse demands, then that's that. Then we won't get those fights. But I think he can get a pretty penny fighting Virgil Ortiz, fighting Boots. It may not be a Canelo bag, but I think these would be good fights. But it seems like Crawford doesn't even care about the fans in that regard. He just wants to almost avoid risks unless it's going to be Canelo, and he wants to end with a bang. And to me, that's kind of ending with the whimper, especially at the Errol Spence fight. When you beat Errol Spence and you were the free agent and you did the parade, I think the world kind of looked at it like, oh, man, Bud Crawford, he's serious. Man, Bud Crawford, sky's the limit. So why would you, if what Eddie Hearn is saying is true, and you don't want the Boots fight and the Virgil Ortiz fight, you won't do the Madrimov rematch, it's just like, why? You know, why? You had no problem fighting Thomas Delorme's, and you had no problem fighting a washed Amir Khan, stuff like that. And then now when there's some significant challenges, we'll say, it seems like you're like, I'm not motivated to fight a Boots. Like, you can't tell me that Jaron Ennis is worse than some of the guys that Top Rank had you fighting, or BBL Prime, you fought a guy in David Avanesian. There's no way. So it's like, this is where it hurts when the fighter, because Canelo fans do this too. They'll be like, nah, he don't need to fight David Benavidez. But we watch Canelo fight weaker people than David Benavidez. So why would the Cinnabons be so anti a David Benavidez fight? It doesn't really register. You have no problem with Canelo fighting whoever, Caleb Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Avni Yildirim, some pretty dreadful options, really. But to fight Benavidez, you're like, no. Or Triple G fans did it. Hey, no, guys, hey, Max, guys. Triple G fans, they were like, nah, don't fight Jamal Charlo. He don't deserve it. Don't fight Demetrius Andrade. But you're okay with him fighting Ryota Murata and Kazmil Sesmeta with 5 knockouts at the time, and he could fight Steve Rolls. So you want to see Triple G fight a black dude like Steve Rolls, but you don't want to see him fight a black dude like Jamal Charlo at the time, or undefeated Demetrius Andrade. It looks suspect. The same thing is happening with Crawford. We endured these not so great fights before the Errol Spence fight, and Crawford had no problem getting his guaranteed minimum or whatever with Top Rank, or getting whatever he got from BBL Prime for the Avanesian fight. So when the paycheck was to your liking and the risk was minimal, Terence Crawford took those fights. But now Virgil Ortiz, and here's the craziest thing, I'm about to blow your mind right now, Cobain. The craziest thing is, I would actually favor Boots to beat probably a lot of these guys. I want to see it to see if I'm right or wrong, but like Virgil Ortiz, I think there's some danger there, but I think I would favor Boots, or excuse me, I would favor Bud to beat Virgil Ortiz. But Virgil Ortiz is strong, durable. He definitely got heart. He showed you that in his last fight. So I would want to see it. You get what I'm saying? But if I had a bet right now, I would pick Crawford to beat Virgil Ortiz. So it's weird because it's like something's not adding up. Virgil Ortiz seems like a great way. Turkey said he's going to send you an offer. That seems like a great fight. There's no way you could tell me is worse than David Avanesian or a fight like that, right? Virgil Ortiz had a tough fight, got through it with Boachuk, close fight. They're going to pay you good, but the risk goes up, is going to go up. Virgil Ortiz can scrap. He's durable. And then I remember Virgil Ortiz had the fight with Maurice Hooker, who's friends with Terence Crawford. Crawford was in attendance. And then Virgil Ortiz called out Crawford after he stopped Hooker. And then I remember seeing the interview where Crawford says, Virgil Ortiz is calling me out. He says he wants me, but he don't want to fight. You can find it on YouTube. Crawford was like at that fight, and then the reporters asked him, or media scrum, and he says he keeps saying my name. He says he want to fight, but he don't want to fight. And then fast forward to the future, you guys are pretty much with the same people. You're in the same weight class now. He has a strong win against a very strong name in the division, Sergey Boachuk, WBC interim. You're vacating all your welterweight belts, and then you might not fight again unless it's a Canelo. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. That's all I'll say for now. We'll let Crawford decide what's next. But if what Eddie Hearn is saying is true, that he pretty much, what everyone's saying, he only wants Canelo, that's suspect to me.